This is the Women's Hockey Life Podcast. So, hi everybody, it's Barb from WHL Academy. I'm a mindset coach with Women's Hockey Life, and I am a clinical counselor in Kelowna, British Columbia. I specialize working with athletes. And today, on today's podcast, I'm really excited to have Jessica Campbell. So, Jess Campbell is a world-class skating coach. She's from Saskatchewan, but now she's in Kelowna, BC, and before coaching. So, Jessica's impressive playing career began with Hockey Canada in 2008. She captained Team Canada to win its first U18 gold medal in the WHL World Championships in 2010. She represented Canada on the international stage with U18 and U22 teams while attending Cornell University on the Ivy League, playing Division I in the NCAA. After graduating in 2014 with a Bachelor's of Science, winning 4 Ivy League titles and 3 ECAC championships, Jessica joined the 2015 Senior Worlds roster, winning gold at Four Nations Cup and silver in 2015 IIHF World Championships with Team Canada. Her impact is felt both on and off the ice, being the only active player to be named League Humanitarian of the CWHL in 2017 and played an integral part of the Calgary Inferno, hosting its first Clarkson Cup. Jessica has since brought her playing career to a close to pursue her passion for power skating, specializing in individual skating and player skill development. Jessica has transformed traditional skating development models and created unique teaching frameworks, helping athletes dominate today's game on every level. She has been coaching for 4 years in the Okanagan, leading camps, and has helped thousands of athletes reach their highest potential on the ice from youth to the pros. Her genuine passion for teaching skating, combined with her extensive understanding of the game and ability to break down the fundamental skating mechanics, has allowed her to launch her own business, JC Powerskating. Actively coaching 15 plus NHL players, Jessica is also a Hockey Canada trained skills coach and an international skating consultant in Malmo, Sweden, with the Red Hawks of the Swedish Hockey League. When she's not on the ice, she's dedicated to building safer communities as a motivational speaker. As a former RBC athlete, she's a tireless advocate for DIFD, a youth mental health initiative, and spent 3 years working alongside Sheldon Kennedy as his director of communications in child abuse prevention worldwide. Most recently, Jessica has made her mark on CBC's Battle of the Blades with her figure skating partner Asher Hill as season 6 runner-ups. Jessica is a role model for all youth and is leading the way for women in sports. She has made a tremendous impact on our game since playing, mentoring players, inspiring the next generation, and breaking down female coaching barriers in the game. She's an established leader in the skating industry and committed to helping athletes exceed their potential, gain confidence, and master the necessary skating tools to be a force in today's game. So what a bio, and we're so excited to have you on. What a great person too. I've had the privilege of getting coffee with her and getting to know her. So really excited to welcome you on, Jess. And yeah, I know that's a big overview of who you are, but we'd love to hear, who you are, where you grew up, how you grew up. Tell us your career, your story.
That overview touches on a lot of different areas. I mean, it's been a tremendous journey through sport, through hockey, kind of leading everything. All my experiences in the game, kind of how it all began for me was in small town Sask. I grew up on a tiny little farm, southeast Saskatchewan. I had 3 siblings older than me. So you can imagine me, the typical Canadian story, learning to skate on a pond, chasing after my siblings. And, I pretty much could skate by the time I was walking. I don't think I had a choice, even though thankfully I loved it. But kind of grew up as a rink rat and learned to skate public arenas, playing tag, and fell in love obviously with hockey and that passion and our family history. And obviously all my siblings playing, both my parents played hockey. My mom played university hockey as well. Canadian youth sports back in the day. She still reminds me that she has a year left of eligibility. But I grew up in a very big hockey family. And so naturally, it took me all over the world. Obviously, as I became more competitive, I played growing up with the boys. I was usually the only girl on my team. And for me, that was always a bit of a fire under my butt to keep up with the boys and want to be better than all the boys, to be faster, to be stronger. And And that challenged me at an early age it challenged my development. It challenged, my overall mental development of keeping up and kind of being one of the boys, especially as a young, smaller female, kind of holding my own through those development ages. And it took me place to place across the Canadian provinces. When I got to high school levels, I decided to pursue an opportunity to move out west here to Kelowna, which led me to a hockey academy. And that's where, I guess more seriously, I took that step of pursuing my dream of playing on the national team. I remember very vividly 2002 Olympics, watching Team Canada play. And up and until I tuned into that game or saw the Team Canada play for the first time, I always dreamt of actually playing for the Montreal Canadiens. And naive as I was as a young kid, the dream was to play professional hockey. And all we seen back then was I played with the boys and I wanted to make the NHL. And so the highest level for women's hockey became apparent to me when I tuned into my first Olympic match and saw Cassie Campbell as the captain. And that was when I said, okay, I want to be the next Campbell to make the national team. And that became the dream, that became the goal. And there was a lot of challenges, and I'm sure we'll touch on some of those milestones throughout that chapter, but through Saskatchewan and just carrying my roots and all of the development and people that surrounded me in small communities, supported my development, coached me. A lot of the character building came through those early mornings in the prairie provinces of training and having to travel hours and hours away just to get on the ice to practice with the boys or find a girls team to join. I played all kinds of sports. So hockey was usually just a seasonal thing for me. And then in the off season, I was usually taking part in every other kind of sport, softball, school sports that I could get involved in, which ultimately helped me in my athletics later on in my career, and shaped the athlete that I was both on and off the ice. So I'm very grateful for that. And after high school, ended up getting a scholarship to Cornell University, which continued to again support my goal of getting to the national team and the development, the goals, and just reaching those next steps. And ultimately, I think for girls, especially when we're growing up and now I'm coaching in that space, I kind of look at all of my athletes, where they're at, what their goals are, what their aspirations. For me, as a young athlete, as a student athlete, I took my education very seriously, even as a young kid. And so when I had the opportunity to attend an Ivy League university, I, couldn't be more thrilled. And that was a remarkable 4 years in chapter and getting my degree and being able to use my degree that was transferable into the real world after sport. And even while I was still training with the national team, working with Shelton Kennedy in the communications, community relations world, it was something that, connecting both my hockey and education background together, which ultimately got me to this place today. But a kind of a crazy journey, but a very Canadian typical story of, how I went through sport and how hockey kind of drove me through all these different adventures across the country and also into North America and beyond to Europe.
Yeah, that's so awesome. I love hearing the Canadian version because most of the listeners here might know my story of I come from a really famous baseball family in the United States in football. Like my dad was the quarterback, my mom was a cheerleader. We were American through and through. And my dad was a sports team doctor. So he worked for different pro sports teams. And we were living outside of St. Louis. So one of the junior players, two of them lived with us. One was a forward, one was a defenseman. We didn't know anything about hockey because hockey was not really big then. And I wanted to hang out with them. I thought they were so cool. I was like 9 years old, and okay, you can hang out with us if you're the goalie in the basement. And so that's how my career got launched. But I love hearing the Canadian version. And obviously, coming from the States and being American, now I live in Canada. My husband's Canadian. We met at hockey camp. Like my kids play hockey. It's like, I just love that so much. Wow, that's awesome. Yes, I love hearing that snapshot of kind of that overview. And even just that's what most of us start. I mean, I know a lot of the talk now is academies or that early specialization, but even how you touched on playing a lot of sports, that's so important. And what do you see now of kind of that was maybe your journey, and where are you now? Could you paint a picture of that and even speak to that specialization piece where you see that?
Yeah, so I guess kind of where I am now, I've been retired, 9 years old, retired for the last 3 years. I battled a lot of shoulder injuries later in my career, and unfortunately, prior to the last Olympics, I decided to retire and move on into, I guess, still in the hockey world. I didn't really know in that moment, what do I want to do beyond hockey? I knew I had a passion and love for skating. That was one thing where that was a strength of mine as a player, and I was always running camps throughout, even in my playing career. It was really important for me to give back to my communities. Where I grew up in Saskatchewan, in a very remote area. Colleen Sistorix, who is a pioneer of the Canadian women's national team, she was from a nearby community, and she always ran a girls hockey camp, and it was the only girls hockey camp I ever could go to that was ever offered. And so I felt like when Colleen retired, I felt like I was given that torch to pass on to the rest of our community and give back. And so I had a taste of starting my own camp, actually in a First Nations community in Ochapowace First Nations. And it really started that spark for me of how much I truly loved coaching and mentoring and the importance of giving back, but also taking what the game has given me and giving that to other young athletes that maybe don't have the opportunities. Or for me, it was an opportunity to share my experiences, share my knowledge, my passion for the game, and give that to younger kids that were walking the same path as me. And it was that realization, obviously, when I came to a close of my playing career, that I know I want to maybe not be a coach, but I want to teach the game. I love what hockey taught me, how it taught me life skills, how those skills have got me through some of the most greatest challenges of my life and hardships and obstacles. Sport and hockey was always a way to positively cope, and as just a strong outlet for me to continue to learning opportunities that sport gifts you with. I was extremely grateful for. And so I guess, when I came to a close, I actually moved out here to Kelowna and had an opportunity to coach. It was at a hockey academy, and I was given a role where I could teach power skating, which was something I specialized in and loved and began to study. And I worked with a tremendous skating coach, David Roy, who was, I guess, a pioneer of his time as well. And he taught me a lot through my career. And I was able to kind of work underneath him and continue to study and learn and figure out, my approach to development and to coaching and how that worked. And so for about 4 years, I spent out here in the Okanagan coaching female athletes on the guys side as well. And just recently, the last year and a half prior to COVID, I had an opportunity to go do my power skating work in Europe, in Sweden. And I got an opportunity with the Swedish hockey league team on the professional side. And it was my first, I guess, window of working with pros on the male side specifically. And it's easy for me to work in the female game. I think as a female, it's natural to find your way coaching other females. But, my goal was to push boundaries and kind of push the envelope of what can be done for females in sport. And to me, hockey's hockey. Yes, the game is slightly different between maybe the women's game and on the guys' side, how it's played, but really just by rule book. And ultimately for me, it was a lofty goal, but it was a goal I was driving towards, of creating opportunities for me to get my hands on working on the men's side of the game as a female professional, and having that experience and moving over to Europe for short amount of time gave me that confidence to come back and just launch my own business and do this full time and build my clientele and work with a lot of athletes the way that I wanted to, and to take my approaches and all of the skills and the knowledge that I had for skating and apply it to my own methods and my own approach. And so I'm now running my own business, JC Powerskating, and I work full time with young mites all the way up to the pros, NHL players, national team, aspiring athletes on the female side as well. And feel very lucky. I feel confident in what I'm doing, my approach, my belief system. And I just truly feel grateful every day that I get to do what I love. And for hockey to now be involved in hockey on the capacity and in the level that I am truly passionate about as a coach. And it's a little bit of a niche, but something that excites me every day to wake up and to help athletes reach their goals. But hockey just being the avenue to mentor them and shape them and teach them all of these different skills. It's an incredible job, and I feel very, very grateful.
That's so great. It is. It's so true. Sport is a microcosm of life, of how you deal with adversity, pressure, building resilience, character, working together as a team, all of those things in such a microscope of it, and it's exasperated. And to use your story as a player to translate into that as a coach and even a specialized field, that's really inspiring. Because a lot of girls coming up, they think, well, I love the game, it's taught me so much, I don't want to get out of it, but it's hard to make it even professionally, or okay, after college, now what am I? Or all of that. I work so much in that, whether it's on the female side or the men's side. Okay, who am I? What's my identity? What do I do outside of hockey? And we all kind of end up in beer league, even Wayne Gretzky. So it's amazing to see you kind of face that head on and say, no, I want to do this with it. Like, you're very involved in the community, you love giving back, but you're using your skills and your story to really hone in something that you've experienced, that you're saying, hey, we need this and I'm going to start it. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, it took a lot of, it took a lot of, I guess, courage. That's the right way I'd put it, because there's always that fear of like, I'm safer to work for somebody else, or I'm passionate about doing it, but I have a belief, and I love working in team settings. I love working with other coaches, and to me, I never want to stop learning. I never want to stop surrounding myself with other professionals, and athletes being one of them. Like, I learn the most from my athletes. I watch them, I see what they can't do that they can do, and then I study what they do unbelievably well, or I watch the best players in the game, and then I'm constantly breaking down, okay, how are they doing that? Why are they doing that? And how can I teach that and
Yeah.
incorporate that into what I do? And so, it was something that as a coach, as an athlete, I think we desire what's comfortable. I think that's pretty safe to say, that we're just creatures of comfort. And so kind of getting outside my comfort zone. And I remember having this conversation with my dad, and he'll never probably forget the phone call. But when I told him I was going off to Europe, he was kind of like, you can't leave a job without having a job, or he didn't really understand the whole entrepreneurial space. And I said, Dad, I'm taking this as an opportunity to take a risk. I have a 6-month contract to work with a pro team. I've never done this before. If anything, I'm going to make new contacts. I'm going to learn from people in a foreign country. I'm going to get to coach kids that English isn't even their first language. And that's going to challenge me to become a better coach. And if that's all that comes for it, then, I know I'm going to take something out of it. And just that mindset, accompanied by all the fear and the what ifs along the way, it was there. But I think staying grounded in why I'm doing what I'm doing, my approach, and knowing that at the end of the day, my job as a coach is simply mentorship, is just to help players and walk them to the power that already exists within themselves. It's just helping break down those barriers that they've created for themselves, whether they're mentally or their physical barriers, that they're reaching for new new skills or learning new skills. It's my job to ultimately help unveil that potential for them, and for them to see it themselves. Honestly, that's the ultimate gift of coaching. And I get why I've come from a family of teachers now, though I didn't think I had the patience to ever be a teacher. I've now realized it's just, I was never teaching the right thing. And so hockey's has become that thing that I'm truly passionate about, as the tool, to reach minds and hearts of kids and athletes to unlock their own potential.
That's amazing, because I think each one of us can think back to one of the most influential coaches or teachers that we've ever had. And that even if you were 13 or 8 or 20 in university, that person sticks with you. I mean, I have those mentors still in my life who were, at 15 was my coach at Shattuck St. Mary's, that he's been there since. Like those kind of people, they leave a legacy, a really big impact on you.
Yeah. And you know what? It's funny you say that, because I always think about, so many people throughout my career have had tremendous impact, from coaches to players and leaders. But for me, I think when I was a young age, I had a unique experience and early on challenge that shaped a lot of who I was, though I was so young to really understand. I had a coach, and I'll tell you the story first before going back into, I guess, the experience. But this coach, he's basically a family best friend, but his name was Leo Parker, and he was my first, I guess, competitive AA boys coach. I tried out for this next level, the AA team, and no female or no girl had ever made the AA team. And I tried out and I made it. And he was a traditional old school coach, and he selected me on the team, and I believed I deserved to be there. But I'll never forget. So like I said, I played volleyball, and in school I wanted to do everything. In fact, I was on the chess club, like anything and everything that you could sign up for. And so I was on the volleyball team, and our very first AA practice with the boys. So, they announce the team, and there's tears, kids get let go. You're still a young age. We're 13, 12, whatever age we are. And so I had told him, he made very clear rules. No one's ever late. This they went on the list, but no one can ever be late, or, the team gets punished kind of thing. A very old school mindset. And I remember telling him, I have volleyball practice. I might be late, but I'll be there. And he said, okay, thanks for letting me know. And I thought, my young brain was, I told my coach, I might be late. It's going to be okay. I got to the rink. I was maybe 2 minutes late stepping on the ice. And as soon as I stepped on the ice, he said, all right, everyone on the line, we're going to skate. We have a late player. Jess is late, made it very apparent that I was the one that was late, and the team skated. And so I'm already the only girl on the team with a bunch of boys I don't really know, to be honest. And so you can imagine my just like stomach sunk of like, I could have taken the punishment, but the team to watch the team pay for it. And you know what, at that time though, looking back in that moment, I think I went home, cried some tears, told my parents about it. And my dad said, good. He's treating you just like one of the boys.
Yes.
You're completely equal. And that for me was like and I get chills thinking about it, because still to this day, I feel like I carry that same confidence in my teaching. As I'm just as confident, working with a male in my profession. It has nothing to do with female and males, but regardless of whether I'm coaching guys or I'm coaching girls, my approach, my belief in what I do, it's delivered the same way. And that it's unwavering, in the sense that I think early on in my career, I had those mentors and those coaches who, treated me just as one of the boys. And so whether it's, maybe I was more naive to think, or I was, manifesting these beliefs that, what, you can do anything you want to do in this world. Like there's no barriers. There's no one that can stop, stand in your way, or regardless of who you are, where you come from, what gender you are. You can truly, if you love what you do, you're good at what you do, and you work hard at what you do, you can be that. And that's stayed true with me, as simply back to your point, as a coach that shaped me early on at a young age.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yes, I love that. Whenever there's stories to go along with it, it's like, I bet everyone listening can think of a coach like that, or a time where they felt that way. But even looking back, I mean, you could tell yourself so many stories about that, of, oh, that was so stupid, or make excuses, or that wasn't a big deal. But no, I mean, how mature of you to say, yeah, that's right. And of course, I don't want to punish the team, but to own that and say, yeah, he treated me like one of the boys, and what an instilled lesson. Like, you have so many ways to retell that story, but to use that for character building, for resilience, I mean, that's really great.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely probably didn't feel that way in the moment.
Right. We never do.
And again, it's the role of strong mentors and parents,
Yeah.
that I could go home and tell my parents that, and for, my dad to say, good,
Yeah.
you were late, you chose to do something else, maybe you were, whatever reason, you communicated that. But I just think those lessons and being able to, and you do this a lot in your role, Barb, but just rephrasing the negative, because there's always good, there's always positive in every negative. And I think throughout our career, and especially through sport, that's ultimately the power of sport, is all the uncontrollables are what teach you the most. All the things that go wrong are truly the gifts that make you stronger. And I know that's pretty cliche to say, but it's way easier said than done. Like when you're in those moments, it's like negative, you have been cut by a team, the world is ending, what do I do? And that's our job as coaches, to be like, hey, this could be the best thing that ever happened to you.
Yeah.
Let's paint the picture in a different way. And you know, Kim Thompson with Hockey Canada, our mental skills, she always used to just say like, flip the glasses upside down, new perspective, and look at it from a different, step away from it, helicopter perspective of what do you really see? And all of a sudden everything changes. And now the situation is presenting you with all these incredible opportunities to step forward into that space. And it's a big philosophy of mine, is we're constantly failing forward. Failure is just, it's just the main ingredient to what we do every single day. Because if you're not failing, you're not trying, you're not growing, you're not striving for more. And there's a fine line of, training in that space, but it's constantly just knowing like this is always going to be uncomfortable, and we're all going to feel uncomfortable, myself included. Let's just step into that space. And that's become a big belief behind my approach to coaching, and also just the human element. We all feel the same. We've all been there. We all know that discomfort. And I find that's an easy way to connect with athletes from any walk of life.
Yes. Yes. Oh, that's so true. And as a goalie, I learned way more from getting scored on than I ever did from, making every save in the book. And as a coach too, I learned a lot more from, being down or losing and learning the game more, different counterattacks and things than ever always winning everything. So it's not necessarily the situation, it's your perspective on it. And that's so true. What would you say is or the biggest hurdle that you've encountered in your career or your life, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, I think my journey through sport, it's been an incredible ride, and obviously I'm still involved in sports. So the power of sport in my life shaped me, and obviously kept me in sports. It's what I do every single day. But early on, I guess the biggest hurdle or setback or challenge that I guess shaped who I am, and kind of how sport became that I don't want to say coping mechanism, but became that outlet for me to find my way and to work through, I guess, life and challenges of life. But at a young age, when I was 10 years old, and I kind of had alluded to the family I was brought up in, it was, big hockey family. And I always looked up to my siblings, and I was, following them around the rink, and just anything they said I would do. I was the youngest sibling, and that's just what you do. And so unexpectedly, when I was 10 years old, my oldest brother, Josh, he passed away in a car accident, and he was playing hockey at the time. And I think my 10-year-old self processed that loss as hockey is, well, for me, I saw him as identity as a hockey player. He was 18 years old. He was just, and I was too young to really know what was going on, what happened. And for me, I saw hockey bring joy to our family. I saw hockey be the one thing that was his dream, and, what everyone rallied around him for. And it was this legacy in his name. And I think in my heart, I saw hockey as, this is something that brings joy to our family. And I saw it and I experienced it in firsthand, and when our life was turned upside down. And so as a young kid, I think my dream and that belief of, hey, I want to do this for my brother. And it became such a powerful tool for me to approach sport, because I was always not chasing a dream from an external or an extrinsic factor motivation side of it. For me, I was always very consciously aware of my why, and being able to look within of, hey, regardless of what happens here, like my purpose is so far beyond the sport itself. Like I was driving myself to make my brother proud, knowing that at the end of the day, life is very short, and we have an opportunity every single day to wake up and do hopefully what we love, or to find something that we love, or to find the joy in every day. And so I saw hockey as something that brought our family joy, and it brought me joy, and I loved it. And it just became that driving force. Everything I did was, I know I have someone that I love more than anything watching down on me that I want to make proud. And in those moments where you want to give up, and that happens each and every day in sport, you're presented with so many opportunities to quit or want to quit. And I think those are the moments where he shaped, my response or how I handled, because I just knew from within that I could, this is an opportunity, this is life, this is my opportunity to continue to take what's given to me and to continue working through it. And I think when you're in that position, and anybody who knows, I guess, loss or tragedy, or that same feeling would be able it would resonate with them on how powerful that can be. And throughout my career later on, I think that the challenges of getting cut from a team, they were hard. They're not messages or lessons that I guess anyone wants to face. But for me, I always took hardship with a grain of salt, because I always knew, what, like, this sucks, but life could be worse.
Right.
And, I saw life at the worst, in moments of really, big tragedy, and saw that on the other side of it, what can come out of it. And I was constantly leaning on my family and my friends and my teammates who helped me get through those times, and continuing to face, other challenges like injuries, and through, like I mentioned, at Cornell, I had shoulder surgery, and then that reoccurring shoulder injury, continued to prolong my, just it took a toll on the rest of my career. And so for me, it was kind of just having the mindfulness to know, what, like, who am I beyond this game? Like, I know what this game has given me. I know that this game has, inspired me to push for greatness, and to give back to my community. But who am I, and how can I continue to share what I've learned? And I think from an early age, like, those messages, that same coach that I alluded to, he was the same coach coaching me at that time. And so I think those messages at that age, they sunk in even more, because I was in that space of, what, this is more than just a dream to me. This is now a legacy. And with a 10-year-old kid that's going through, something that maybe only adults can really comprehend the magnitude of why. It was more, I had a team and I had a community, and it was that culture piece that truly shaped who I was as a person, the teammate that I was at an early age, and carried through. And I'm extremely grateful, I guess, for those hardships and how those lessons continued to, arrive in my life, but I was able to handle them with a different approach, and a token of gratitude for them. But it's, I think, and anyone, yourself included, can speak to those challenging times as we look back on them, because they were so instrumental in our growth. Right. And they give purpose to the why behind everything we do. And if it weren't for my teammates and for my family and just the outlet of sport, I don't know where I would have been, or how I would have got through it. And I think that's ultimately why I'm so connected to the game. Not because I feel like I owe anything to hockey, or hockey owes me anything. It's more so I see the power of having an outlet that's positive, such as sport or teammates or community. And that can be true to anything. And in school, there's always those communities that are there. But I truly believe that, what happens to us is ultimately what we take out of what happens to us is truly the gift. And it's not about, what cards we get in life. It's just how we play the ones we're dealt, and make the most of it, that can truly shape us and take us down this incredible journey.
Thank you for sharing, Jess. Yeah, I'm sorry about your loss. And that's incredible how you didn't just stay stuck in that. I mean, we all experience grief and loss and tragedy, whether it's the loss of someone or a dream or a part of us or any of those things. And I mean, that's a great inspiration of, like you said, extrinsic motivation, but it becomes intrinsic of my why, and to do it for your brother. And so your loss doesn't just stay a loss, it becomes a legacy. And
Yeah.
that's really inspiring because it doesn't just end with you either. I mean, look at all these other people that you're working with and impacting, and it's that ripple effect. And that is incredible. And that's inspiring.
And I think when you say that too, it reminds me of, just women's hockey in the state of where it's at, because
Mm.
I think so often throughout my career, we got the why do you do what you do if you guys are, making no money, or when the reality is painted correctly of people realizing the state of women's hockey. And for me, 3-4 years ago, that was ultimately the decision factor, was, do I continue playing for the love of the game? I was so passionate about being involved in the community. And like I said, when I was playing, I was very involved in the mental health space, and I still am today. But at the time, as an active player, I was very driven about, this is who we are as people, and we're hockey players. We're professionals. We're just like our male counterparts, but we are so we are so connected to our why and our meaning behind the game, because we aren't paid the big bucks. We do it truly for the love of the game. And now, I guess, being in that coaching space, and looking back full circle as an active player, um, you still see the heart and soul behind women's hockey, and how the why. If you ask any, within this podcast, probably could count many times talking to female hockey players who have that story of, like, this is why I do what I do, or this is how I got to this space. But we all have our very unique experience of how sport, was manifested into our lives, or that love for the game became that avenue of inspiring and doing good for the world and in our communities. And it's incredible. And that's why I'm so, I guess, grateful for the opportunity of, being able to coach, because I saw the value of a coach in my life. And even as a player, as an active player, it was like, we're signing autographs for kids, we're giving back, but that's not enough. It's like, what do they need from us? How can we, shape them and show them that, hey, look, this is, hockey's what we have in common, but this is beyond the sport itself. And I think the state of women's hockey, where it has been, where it's going, where it is today, I think it's projecting up, and I'm extremely excited about the growth and the awareness. But it's also kind of looking at it from, hey, we all tie up our skates the same way. We all have our own experiences, and there's some incredible athletes that have these same stories. And I know some of my teammates, I brings me tears knowing some of the challenges and obstacles that they've worked through. And it's incredible to know that this sport, and keeping girls in sport, having access to play hockey, being inspired by hockey, is something that we can't let go of. Like, we can't lose that beat to continue moving forward, to continue to open up more opportunities for the game to be grown in all across the world. But it's so important for girls to believe in, that dream, and to know that there's something out there for them as well, that if it's what they love, they should be able to do it as well.
And I just think highlighting your story and people like you and different women involved in the game who, you've come up through it, you've played it, you're coaching it. I mean, that in and of itself, you're modeling to girls coming up, hey, you don't just have to be a hockey player. Like, so much of us that's our identity, and we're wrapped up in it. And then when it's done, it's like, okay, I hit this goal. Even if you're on the Olympic team, okay, now what? And you're giving examples, real life examples of, well, I could always be a skating coach. I could always be a skills coach. I could always work in sports psychology or the mental side of it. I mean, it's real life examples of how to still be involved in the game, how to still have that impact on people. And one of my favorite quotes by Maya Angelou is, people will forget what you said to them. They'll forget what you did to them, but they'll never forget how you made them feel.
Mhm.
And even just how you described your coach, and how then you've imparted some of that inspiration on the athletes that you work with. I mean, that's incredible, of just how the feeling. I mean, people want to feel felt, and that is inspiring. That's a fire that's lit. That's how legacies get long lasting too.
Absolutely. We always get the question, or I get the question from a lot of players and parents now of, what was your kind of most prized memory of playing with the national team? Or what was it like to play with Team Canada? Or you know what? And I or can I see your medals? It's
Yeah.
usually the one of the questions. Can you bring your medals? And I always laugh because I'm like, okay, I could bring the medals, but I don't know where the medals are. I'll find them because for me, it wasn't about the medals. And
Yeah.
even when you win the medal in the moment, yes, you win the medal. It's like it's that cherry on top of that's what we're striving for. You climb the mountaintop, you get it, you look down, it's all. But what you actually remember, it's to your point. That's one of my favorite quotes. But it's you remember all the players next to you. Like, and
Mm.
I'm sure you can speak to this and allude to the power of being on a team. But I can remember every single team and the players that were either where they were sitting in the locker room next to me. I could name those like the name bars of which teammates were on each of my teams, whether we won or lost.
Yeah.
And especially in the moments when we lost, because those are the moments where the team even comes together more. And I think when I look back and it's such a strong belief that I have when I'm coaching is who are you? What kind of teammate, what kind of person are you? Because at the end of the day, it's incredible to be an elite athlete and to be an incredible hockey player, but when life happens or when all is said and done, who are you among that hockey identity or that hat of hockey you put on you? And that's, I think, such an important place and space for athletes to kind of hone in on that space of like,
Mhm.
look within, who am I? Because once you do that, I wish I would have done that even earlier on in my earlier on, but late in my career, because I think we always need that check-in of
Yeah.
this is my current. Now I'm on U18 team. Now I'm in college. Now I'm on the senior Olympic team. But like that mental space is constantly changing, and being able to look within and ask yourself, who am I? What has changed? Where, how do I need to adjust, react? But having that core foundation of knowing, this is who I am, this is how I carry myself day to
Mhm.
day, that should be unwavering. And if you can set that foundation early, then you can always build from it. It's like can't break the foundation of the house, even if all the walls fall apart. And that's still how I approach even development. It's like set the foundation right, continue to build and revisit the foundation. But if you have that structure and those supports, then you're pretty much no one can break you.
Right. Yes. I love that strong foundation. Yeah.
Mhm. It's
Oh,
actually
well,
funny too. Back to the coach that you had mentioned.
yeah.
I caught up with him last year
Mhm.
prior to the Battle of Blades experience, and we were talking about coaching, and he, he was kind of bugging me saying, I remember when you would be unloading your bag from the car and I would be bugging you about your pink nail polish. And I always kind of loved when he would bug me about because it made me feel like I was the girl on the team, but I was with the boys. So it was almost like an honor.
Yeah.
And I was like, do you remember when you would never, let off that I had nail polish and whatever? And so we were laughing about that, but we're then flipped. He said, I'm so proud of you, for continuing on as a coach and for what you're doing now on the men's side of the game. And it's, something that, to hear that from him was powerful. But also I asked him, I said, when you were coaching, whatever age it was, because he coached from young athletes all the way up to pros, and I asked him, what was something you look for as a coach? And when you were coaching, like, what was that like magic thing that, you brought to the table? And he said, for me, when I was coaching, no matter whether it was a camp or a team or a practice or first time working with athletes, I always looked at their faces.
Mm.
And I said, what do you mean by your face? He's like, I would put them in a drill and then I would watch their faces. And whether it was a battle drill or an easy drill, I would watch their faces. And right away, I knew which players were going to make it through, or I knew which players were meant to be, in this sport, because if there were smiles, if they were gritting their teeth, when they were digging deep, like you could tell. And so now to this day, I'm constantly like my awareness of my athletes persona and what they're putting forward and how they're, you can tell. And it's not always the same, because I think a lot of athletes maybe are having a different experience in what they put forward, but it's worked so far of truly being able to read players and where they're at and what they're feeling. And how to connect with them, maybe if they're not, being empowered, or what their mindset is that day, or how they're feeling. And it's been a powerful tool for me. So I'm still taking those little tidbits as my coach taught me, and trying to apply them to how I pass on to my players.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. Look at the face. I like that.
Their faces, yeah.
Mm. Aw. Well, Jess, thank you so much for coming on with us and sharing your story. And yeah, best of luck. And as you continue to, I'm sure you're deep in the heart of it, of camps right now and everything going on. But we just really appreciate your time and yeah, sharing your story with us.
Thank you so much, Barb. I appreciate you guys having me here, and I wish you the best too.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so if you guys want to learn more about Jess and JC Powerskating, you can check her out at, what is your website?
jcpowerskating.com.
Right there.
Or
Perfect. I love it.
Instagram, I have lots of content on there, good drill examples, players looking for ideas, coaches, lots. I'm constantly trying to put out, ways to help others and get tools to continue developing.
Awesome. So follow her at JC Power Skating. And again, yeah, Jessica Campbell. Yeah, thank you so much. And I hope, yeah, that you all are taking some things away from this as you kind of listen or re-listen to this. I really just encourage you to find something to take away of maybe what's your why, or who has impacted you. How can you impact someone in your sphere, and what that looks like. And yeah, we wish you all a good day and a good weekend. And thanks so much again for taking time with us.